Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the debrief. Geo, how is oneself?
I'm good. Do you know something? My bubble's been burst a little bit. I'll be honest with you, because of Aston Villa. Really, A, they were really good last night again, and B, we're playing them on Sunday. So that's sort of it's just I'm already looking ahead to the next game, because obviously we've got to record the preview stuff today. So I've had to transition into sort of Villa, which I'm still not looking forward to the Villa game. I'd be lying if I said I'm now suddenly confident we're going to turn over Aston Villa. However, I am enjoying the fact that we won convincingly last night. I enjoyed the performance. I thought we've seen 4 fantastic goals out of 5 we scored. I thought 4 of them were really good. And we've got the quarterfinal draw to look forward to today at noon. So I'm getting excited for that. So I've got a mixture of emotions, truth be told, Charlie. I've got a bit of happiness, a bit of excitement, and a little bit of fear.
Yeah, I mean, listen. Do I think that's fair? Yes. Do I care at all about Aston Villa right now? I can't lie to you. And that's maybe short-sighted of me, but man, I'm not over it. I'll be real. I'm just not. When we record the preview later, maybe that's when I'll lock in about Aston Villa. But for now, I think I'm still just in that glow of watching a bunch of players just absolutely killing it, and the consistent feeling. It's very, very rare, I feel like, as a West Ham fan. It's probably quite rare in football as well, but we're a bit too much in the haze of West Ham to know this, I guess. But it's very rare to be 3-0 up, whatever the score would be, and to still be confident that you're going to score again next. And even sometimes, those games where people absolutely blitz people in first half, and then second half they come out and it feels like no one's going to score because it's just that everyone's just playing the game, just playing the minutes down to try and just get through the rest of the game, sort of thing. I was sat there and I was just like, I just have a feeling we're going to score again. I just have a feeling we're going to score again. And it just kept happening. And not only that, the goals felt like they just kept getting better. And it's so rare for me to feel like that as a West Ham fan. And again, something else that's rare for me to do. Last night, about, I don't know, whatever, very late into the evening, into the early hours of the morning for me or whatever, I just went, yeah, do you know what? I'll go watch the goals again. And again, it's so rare for me to do that, to go, do you know what? Let's go and have a look here. Sometimes I might be like, oh, I should go look at him again so I can be aware of what's some thoughts for Geo for a video or whatever. I was just like, no, I'm just going to go watch him again. Watch Kudus run through all those people and score and went, yeah, do you know what? Rewind that about 30 seconds. Let's reload it. Let's just see it again. And I'm not over it. I can't act like I am, I'll be honest with you.
I did the same. I couldn't sleep this morning. Did you see what time I texted you?
I did. I was lying awake. I saw the message and I was like, Geo, man, what's going on with you? This is Charlie Walsh movements.
I couldn't sleep. I went to bed and I woke up at 3:30 and it was like 3:45 and I was stirring. I was awake. I was like, I might just well go do work. So I was at the computer last night doing work at 4 a.m. Weirdly, Charlie, literally 2 minutes as I turned the computer on, Charlie sent me the thumbnail for this video. So 4 a.m. me and Charlie were doing work in prep for this video. But anyway, after I set the videos up for this one, I did the video with Dan over on the forum channel, edited it up and put it up this morning and whatever. So I did as much as I could do. And I was like, I'm just going to watch the highlights just on YouTube. I just sat here watching them and it was just like, I don't know why I do it, drag the cursor all the way back on the timeline rather than just push replay. I'm like, watch it all in reverse. Watch again. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And there's goals in West Ham's history I see over and over on social media. And when I see it on my feed, I stop and I watch it. I know what's going to happen, but I watch it. Anton Ferdinand's volley against Fulham is one of the best goals for that, because on this day, it always comes up on Anton Ferdinand's birthday. And they're not far apart. When it happened in Anton's birthday, are not far apart, because I always take the piss out of him for it on the podcast. But it's one of those goals I always watch. Mohammed Kudus' goal last night, I will always watch that one when it appears on my feed. I will just take 20 seconds to watch him doing his run.
Yeah, it's something I felt like his goal specifically was something that I feel like we all knew he was capable of. And I don't know. It's one of those goals I never see West Ham players score. You know those goals that you see other teams scoring. You go, oh, I wish one of our players would do that. Or like we're going to sign someone and you do a Gonzo, right? And you're watching it, and you're watching a highlights package, and you see them score one of those goals. You go, oh my god, we're going to get that West Ham, and then they turn up, and it's just like the most functional, boring nonsense you've ever seen in your life, right? It's one of those things that you look at, and you just don't see. You just don't see. And we knew he had it in him. Like, and it felt like even in that game, there were times where he was picking up the ball and taking it past people. But he picked up the ball deep in our own half, maybe halfway through our own half, beat three players, three, and then also slotted it home.
With his
I
weak
mean,
foot.
with his weak foot, just insane.
And then he did a really good celebration after.
And yeah, and then he stole, then he stole a stall from anyone and just sat and just took it in. And like the pictures from it are so good. Like again, not to be insane about it, but like I'm sitting there making the thumbnails at 4 a.m. in the morning, and I'm going through all the pictures to find the right ones for the thumbnails and stuff, and just all the pictures of him just sat there taking it in, and the replay, and then Michail Antonio comes and puts his arm around him and says stuff in his ear, and then Sue Fowl turns up and sits next to him, and you just see his smile grow bigger, and I'm like, man, we just beat a team. And look, I know there's going to be some people want to put some asterisks on this, and that's fair enough. And we'll probably get more deeper into the situation in a second. But we just beat a team in Europe 5-0 with one of our players taking it through three players, picking it up in his own half and scoring with his weak foot. Like, mad, just insane, just completely and utterly insane.
Anyway, let's take some of your comments, and we've got 2 shout-outs to do. So first of all, we've got Garino saying, what I loved about the Kudus goals, the fact that so many West Ham players had their hands up celebrating a goal before Kudus shot. They just knew he was good. They did. Sufal did it. Bowen did it. Mavropanos did it. They're all just like, it's a goal. He's through. He's not missing this. And he said, great to see what the team can do when allowed off the leash. Moyes might have learned a lesson, but I doubt it. Chippy's also watching the highlights on a loop. Peter said that first Kudus goal won't get as much coverage like it was scored by one of the so-called top 6. It's the big 6, and there is a reason for it, without getting too geeky, but the views overseas on television, the big 6 are like ridiculously far ahead. I think Spurs are the 6th team, and I think Everton are 7. And I think Spurs are pulling 3 times more viewers than what Everton do. So the gap between 6th and 7th and the overseas viewers is ridiculous. Hence why they're called the Big 6. So there you go. A little bit of geeky for you. That is why they get referred to as the Big 6. Not because of their league position. I often see people say, well, look at Chelsea. How can they still be? It's the Big 6 because Chelsea's still pulling the viewers. Arguably, probably pulling more because they're doing so crap this season. Simon says the return of an informed Antonio gives our attack the balance we've missed and gets Paqueta in best position. Attack our best policy with defensive concerns. Chippy says Robbie Savage needs to wind his neck in, telling us fans should be satisfied with Moyes and his player selection is so good. I have to admit that was a little bit. It was a bit too much, the Robbie Savage notion thing. It was too far.
I'll be honest. So I again, because I'm doing the watch along, I'm talking. I have them quiet. It's more just if I need the information of what the opposition player is called or whatever.
Charlie, he was talking as if we win 5-0 every week.
The thing is, right? I don't know if they're friends. I feel like they might be, but the time I realized it was, and again, you might not have heard that commentary at the time because you were obviously busy doing other things. The final when we won, his commentary was. It was like watching his best friend succeed. There's a bit where he's like, "Go on, boys, hey, go on, yeah!" And I'm just like, he's literally just screaming. And so whenever I've thought about Robbie Savage talking about David Moyes, I just sort of strike it off as something not really. Listen, if you want vibe or whatever, then fine. But if you're looking for any sort of information, not to listen because the guy's he's a big. Let's just say he's a big fan. I don't know whether they're friends, but it comes across that way. But if you haven't heard that commentary and you're not. And it won't annoy you to hear it because my god, it is insane. Just listen. Listen to the bits when everyone's celebrating on the pitch, and there's a bit where it cuts to David Moyes. He just starts sort of dancing and jumping up and down. I've never heard a man as happy and proud in that moment as Robbie Savage was.
Savage last night was like we were winning like 2-0 at the time or something. He was like, This is what he does. This is why fans need to get off his back. The football's good. They're winning. What's the problem? Just ignoring the fact that we're 1-0 down after the first leg and we drew 2-0 with Burnley at the weekend. He just ignored. He was chatting as if we play like that every game and we win every game. And listen, if we played like that every game and won every game, I don't think there'd be any complaints. If anything, all Robbie Savage was doing was arguably proving other people's point, which is that is what we want. That is what we want. What are you talking about? And what's the problem, Moyes? Well, actually, if we did that, there wouldn't be one. That is the problem, that we don't see this. But he was just too much. Robbie Savage was too much. Normally, the commentators don't bother me. I have the volume down quite low usually, but it's too much. Di Canio had said that he only fears Liverpool, and he went on to say half of our team are top drawer players. Any team in European football would have them. But David was at the game and said he was in disbelief when Kudus scored. Just stood there with his hands on his head. Atta says Moyes got to stick to the style of play. He shouldn't revert to his old style. Just allow your skillful and talented players to express themselves. It's what Pep Guardiola does to some extent. Not long ago, Pep said, when you're in the final third, there's no tactics. He said it's all down to individual talent. He said, I'll give you the tactics to defend. I'll give you the tactics to get into the final third. But once you're in the final third, there's not much I can do. It's up to the players on the pitch to work out what to do. And this is where you rely on talent. And if it's good enough for Pep, I think it's good enough for me. Lewis says, being 1-0 behind helped us in a way. We brought in another attacker, knew we had to go out and win. Simple. We're not expecting to play at Barcelona, but to play like this against teams around us, I do agree with that one. Right, if I just try and skip all the way back, here we go. Right, I've got the 2 shout-outs now, Charlie. So first of all, Paddy Walsh took his son to his first game last night, and his name is Charlie Walsh.
Positive signs. Might end up being a layabout dropout like me.
Paddy,
however, could go on to be a legend, so who knows?
This is what your son has to look forward to. This will be your son in 25 years' time.
Paddy, I would like to apologise in advance. Sorry. My mum's proud of me. Whether she should be or not is another story.
And second shout out, there's a reason it disappeared off the screen, is for Collingwood. So Collingwood said the only way last night could have been better if he put money on his prediction. I'm going to back Collingwood up. On Patreon, and I'm going to promote Patreon in a minute. On Patreon, we have a prediction competition for every single game where you guess the score and the first scorer. Get it right, you go into a bowl and 1 overall winner, and there's a big prize for the 1 overall winner. Last night, if you were subscribed to the supporters tier or the Mild Addicts, you won a signed shirt, which Collingwood has done. And if you were an addict, you would have won a signed Lucas Paqueta shirt. Collingwood said 5-0 West Ham and Paqueta to score first. He genuinely did. I had a look this morning at 4 a.m. and this is for Collingwood. Collingwood has now won this signed Areola shirt because of his prediction last night. He was, unsurprisingly, the only one that predicted 5-0 West Ham with Paqueta to score first. I mean, there was a lot of like 4-1s and 4-0s in there, to be fair. There was a lot of people predicting heavy wins, but Collingwood was the only one that said 5-0. Lucas Paqueta. So congratulations, Collingwood. That shirt will be on your way. And what I will tell you now is this weekend we're playing Aston Villa. Doesn't matter which tier you're subscribed to. The prize up for grabs is a signed Lucas Paqueta shirt. So it doesn't matter what tier you're signed up to. So if you fancy supporting the channel from £3.60 per month, go to patreon.com/hammerchat. Links in description below. All support is massively appreciated. Because of Patreon, we can do 1 video per day per channel on YouTube for free. I know there's brand deals and adverts, you've got to put up with it, but that and Patreon allows us to do this on a regular basis. Thank you very much to anybody that does join up. Anyway, Charlie, back to yourself.
Go get in there, M. Collingwood, the atlas of Hammerlytics. Good lad. Yeah, the other big thing I think from last night, well, there's lots of big things actually. I thought Michail Antonio was immense. And seeing him back and in form and wanting to have a go and sort of getting in there, because I think last game we sort of saw it a bit before that and it was fits and spurts, but like that felt like a vintage West Ham performance. It was almost nostalgic watching him and Aaron Cresswell getting forward into those early crossing positions. It almost felt like 2020 all over again. But I just thought, I said this I think to you at half time, but I love Jared Bowen, and I think the amount of what he does up front is really I really like appreciate, because even though sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, it's never his own fault. The guy just carries on going and going and going. Like there's times where there's times in games I see where it's like late into the game and he goes to start doing a press and no one's really around him, so no one can get involved, so they easily pass around him and you sort of see him go, oh, okay, right, because he's just had to sprint or whatever. And then he'll just carry on doing that for 90 minutes, and I love him. But watching Michail Antonio made me go, oh, crap. Oh, okay, yes, we have been missing this. It's just a completely different kettle of fish. Add on to that the fact that that means Jared Bowen can then go back into his strongest position on the right and be as influential and as effective as he was. I mean, it's just such a big comeback. I don't know how long it's going to last. I don't know how fit he's going to be. I don't know all of these things. But it's just been so missed.
Yeah, I think Antonio was superb last night, actually. Like, statistically, he probably looked pretty average at best. If not, he probably looked quite poor in terms of statistics, because his work is done via metrics you almost cannot measure, which is like disrupting the defence, pulling defence out of the way and creating space for the likes of Kudus and Bowen to move into, frees up the pitch. And we have missed him. He's not always been... it's not like Antonio's played like this all season. I know he's been injured for large parts, but there's been games where he's been poor and anonymous. But last night, I thought we've seen a glimpse of sort of beast Antonio, and Bowen and Kudus benefited from it, from the way that Antonio can move that centre back side. The way he's a nightmare for defenders, and he's a big help for his teammates as well. It's a very unselfish role that Antonio plays. And with the Jared Bowen thing, Dan Gonzo Senior asked me at the end of the video, saying, "Well, what do you think about Bowen like staying on the right?" And I would keep him on the right now, because I think he's better on the right than what Kudus is.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I would arguably agree with that.
I'm pleased we did. I'm pleased we tried that experiment of Bowen up front, and we're going to have to try something. If Antonio's injured again, or he cannot play a large amount of football in a short space of time, which I think is a fair assumption, then we're going to need a plan B, which is, well, what do we do with the players we've got? Because while Danny Ings was good against Burnley, I don't want to see him up front on his own. I do not want to see Danny Ings playing in that way that we played last night. He's not as good at Antonio as that. Danny Ings has better strengths than Antonio in some regards. His finishing is far better than Antonio's, for example, but his movement's nowhere near as good. So I don't want Ings. Mubama got not much of a chance, but the chances he did get, he didn't show anything in there. So I don't think he's an option anymore, really. So now you're all of a sudden, you're back to Bowen, Paqueta and Kudus. What do you do? And I think Bowen has reminded us just what you miss from him being out on that right-hand side. So I don't want to see Bowen as plan B anymore. I think I'd be possibly looking at Kudus as the plan B and trying to do something different out on that left-hand side. But this is where you go back to the January transfer window and you go, well, what on earth are we meant to do? Because one, we didn't bring anyone in, and two, we let two players go. So we don't have an alternative for that left-hand side. Because also, I don't want Paqueta going out there and James Ward-Prowse coming into the number 10 role. I don't want to see that anymore either. That experiment's finished as well, as far as I'm concerned. So we will have an issue when Antonio's unavailable. I don't know what the answer is. And this is why I said to you, I think almost the better option would have been to bring Ben Johnson on at left wing and move Kudus in. I would argue that was correct. Going by last night, Kudus's goals both came from him being central rather than out on the left-hand side. But I'm not sure I want to see it in a league game, Charlie. Ben Johnson starting left wing. So we've got an issue. We will have an issue when Antonio's unavailable, because although there's only 10 league games and a handful of European games, hopefully more than 2, he's not going to be available for them all. No. And I think he's probably someone between the European quarterfinals. We're probably going to have to rest him in the league game. So, yeah, a bit of an issue. Good performances last night, but long term, it just proves just how poor the January transfer window was, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I disagree with certain bits. Like I think for me, Bowen has to be the plan B, just because there's no other option. Like ideally it would be Mubama, but we know that's not going to happen, and so we're talking in terms of what's actually possible to happen here. And so in that case, I think it just has to be Jared Bowen, because there's no Kudus. He's too good deeper. He's just too good deeper. You get putting him up front means all of a sudden he's going from, I mean, on a very basic level, he's going from playing forward with being able to pick up the ball either on the half turn or literally facing forwards to being going back into defenders and having to deal with that. And that's just not. It just takes away so much of what he's good at. Like, I think Jared Bowen does a fine backup job at what the role Michail Antonio does, but he's arguably the only one who can kind of do it. And even then, a lot of times it's not going to happen with Mohammed Kudus. I just don't see it. He's not exactly a guy who's ever going to hold off his man. He's not that sort of player. I think the joy of him is, being able to pick up the ball and run with it. And when he's the guy at the front of the crowd, he's not going to be able to do that anywhere near as enough. I think maybe you get that sort of shifting side to side stuff. I think that he in theory should be really good at, right? What Michail Antonio does, or Jared Bowen does, where drifts off into the left hand channel and picks up those long balls, or drifts off into the right hand channel, takes on his man as Thomas Souček runs into the center, whatever. We saw Antonio do that in the first half. That one where it gets cleared by, I think it's Soufal, and it's sort of aimless. And Michail Antonio, I mean, Kudus won't do the running and jumping that Michail Antonio does to get involved in it. But that bit where Michail Antonio is all of a sudden up front by himself, but he's facing his man 1v1, takes it past him and pulls it back for Kudus, who eventually slightly misses. Stuff like that he should be good at in theory, but I just think that it tends, in my head, it would highlight his negatives more than it would highlight his positives. And that feels like such a, I don't know, it feels like a mess where it does it slightly less with Jared Bowen. Obviously, again, like I say, Mubama is the guy it should be, but given the fact we know that's not going to be the case, talking about in the realms of possibility. And the other option I just think is, and it should be Paquetá. Paquetá is the guy it should be. He doesn't do the half space running, he doesn't do all that nonsense, but what he does do is he can hold up the ball better than any of them by a significant margin. He basically does the hold up the ball role, but at deep in left midfield. He'll pick up the ball, hold off three men, and wait for the guys to run around him, and then play a perfect ball through to them. And that's something I was shocked by whenever he did end up playing that role halfway through a game or whatever earlier in the season. Is he was just so good at it in a way that doesn't really make sense. But then you think about it, and you're like, oh, maybe he does. And I don't think I don't think you highlight his negatives. What you do is miss him playing deeper. And I think he's so important to our build-up play, especially when Emerson is in the team. Maybe when Emerson isn't in the team and we have Aaron Cresswell, actually Kudus playing on the left is probably the right idea. But when Emerson is in the team, just having Paquetá on that left-hand side is just so effective and so important for our build-up play that I don't think you can risk it. And that point leads you out one number. And that's just, unfortunately, Jared Bowen. But that is in a game where it's hopefully in as few games as possible, but we know there will be at least a couple. Because it's the way, like, Michail Antonio, for the vast majority Moyes has been surprisingly injury-free and surprisingly reliable. I'm not in a position where I feel like we can just willy-nilly go, yeah, he'll be fine for all of these games, because I just don't see it happening.
Right, let's take some of your comments before we wrap this up. Club said, I'm not a Cresswell fan, but pleased for him with that strike. While Jordan says, can we agree that he really stepped up to the plate when we needed him to? Razor saying that we miss Bowen on the right when he plays up front. Ralph said Cresswell gets skinned a bit easily still. Jordan's asking what time to draw. Now, the draw's at 12 o'clock. There's a reason myself and Charlie have ignored all the questions and comments regarding the draw, because we will be live at 12 o'clock with our watch along. We will be discussing who West Ham could get. We'll give you the rules, the dates, all the information you need. We'll have it on the show for you. And we'll also be talking about the potential opponents for West Ham as the quarterfinal and semi-final draw is done this afternoon. So fingers crossed we can get a good draw. But we'll discuss everything in that video, trying to keep this one about last night and the next one about the draw itself. But it said Antonio was brilliant. Only if he got a couple of goals, it would have been perfect. While Peter says if he played in Germany, we would have won the first leg. Kevin says Cresswell's goal can't be ignored. Apart from the quality of the strike, it made the tie effectively safe. First goal in European football for him. Great reward for 10 years of service.
Something just to pick up on that point very quickly. It's something. There's two things actually. The first one was the bit before about scoring. I think, as you said at the time, hard done by that he doesn't get the assist for the Jared Bowen goal, because he basically makes it with the dummy and movement. It's something you don't get an assist for, but my God, he basically makes that goal. Second thing about Cresswell, and it's something I mentioned on the watch along. Crazy that he's probably one of the very few. Antonio, another one, but one of the very few who's been here since the last time we had our couple of little European jaunts that ended in. He was a veteran of the Astra Giju times, the Astra Gugu times, and so to watch him have to go through all that and then actually, get a goal, and it was a really good goal, really
Not
good
many
finish.
left, is there? Caswell, Antonio, and Ogbonna.
Yes, yeah, I think that's probably it.
Ben Johnson would have been on the fringes, but
yeah, even then, I think it's probably a couple of years before he makes his senior debut at that point. Because even Ngakia came before him, and I don't think Ngakia was playing at that time, so I don't even think he was. So yeah, very, very few left. And so to watch him get his goal was it was just nice from it was one great goal, top finish, nice bottom corner. Like in any other situation, we'd be going, oh, what a goal! It just happened to be that there was a goal of the season contender straight after it. But yeah, what a guy.
Lewis says Bowen is so good at beating his man on the wing. He gets better and better at it. He has to play there, in his opinion. Bardi said he's hopeful Emerson is back for Villa, and if we play Antonio, Bowen and Kudus up front and use Paqueta as an attacking centre mid, makes sense to switch the front three about. Keep the manager thinking. Jordan is hoping to get Benfica. Peter says we're now gifted Spurs a Champions League spot. Possibly. Barry said you can start Antonio and bring him off after the first half if not doing well. Adrian says the concern with Italian clubs is the trouble with their fans. We already have been done by UEFA. We want to avoid any crowd issues. Usual having a little dig at Rangers, saying that he would have liked Rangers in the next round, but they're out. Benfica put them out last night, whereas Guarino wants Benfica. Atta says Kudus is an all-rounder. He can't even play as a defender. His defensive abilities are just top-notch. Oh, he can even play as a defender. His abilities are top-notch.
His work rate was really good. Like, that defensive side of his game is genuinely, like, really, really good. Surprisingly good.
Peter says, even in the late sub, Phillips looked poor last night. Send him on garden leave until he goes back to Man City. We're going to need him. We're going to need him in the first leg. We're going to need him. Alvarez is suspended. I'm telling you now, regardless of who we play, I want Calvin Phillips to start because I've seen what happens when it's Souček and Ward-Prowse, and I do not want to witness that. So we've got the 11th of April and 18th of April. Thank you. Zanussi says that's just when we play our next European games. We've got a month to get Calvin Phillips ready. It's a long time. It is a long time. He's not away with England. I was hoping he would go away with England and give him a break from West Ham. He'd get some game time under his belt. Quite a low tempo game. But I'm hoping a couple of weeks on the training ground, no match until we play Newcastle after international break. We've got to try and fix him up. We can't just bin him off. He's a good player and a nice guy, and he's been crap so far at West Ham. It's been horrific. But we need to build this guy up because we need him for the first leg of the European game. Unless people disagree and they want to have Souček and Ward-Prowse in there, that's fine. I get why you wouldn't want to see Phillips, but I do not want to see Souček and James Ward-Prowse. I really do not want to see that pairing in midfield in any game, never mind a European one. So we've got a month to try and fix up Calvin Phillips.
Yeah, I think it's a big job, not only finding that sort of rust, getting rustiness, but just also snapping him out of that mindset of just running around like a headless chicken. That's the big thing for me. He needs to just stop doing that because, I mean, that's the problem when you play James Ward-Prowse deeper is just not being aware of the spaces that you need to defend when you're in and around the box. He just sort of has no clue what he's doing in that sense, which makes sense. He spent years playing under managers who were doing very, very different things. It's not something he ever had to do or was asked to do. And so in that sense, I get it with James Ward-Prowse in the same way I got it when Flynn Downs was doing the same thing. The problem is I feel like Phillips should be better at this, but he's just not. He starts in the right position and then goes flying out for whatever reason. Blood rush, I don't know what happens. He's just like, right, I'm getting him. And starts sprinting after people, completely misses, then has to spend the rest of his time charging back to get into position. But the problem is he doesn't do that side of it. You know, there's times where you see people come out of position to try and do something. You know, Alvarez at times last night was the furthest man forward in a press. Like, I don't know what he's doing there, but he was. The thing is with Alvarez is I trust him to get back into the right position and to charge back and to fight for it. With Phillips, I just don't trust him to do that right now. And it's so having to snap him out of that, especially in a situation where he knows just as much as we all know that it's not going well for him and that he needs to step up, he needs to do something, and that I need to do something probably makes the idea of him charging out to try and do something all the more likely. I was talking to Jack about this the other week, right? But I compared it to Alex Song. When Alex Song came back to us the second time he had that big injury, when he first got into the team, every time he would get the ball, he would do these insane Hollywood long passes and it would never ever work out because I felt like he was trying to prove himself. Like, I'm Alex Song, I can do this. Watch me do this. Like, I can do this. Here's why you play Alex Song. Here's why you get me in the team. And it wasn't until he snapped out of that and started, you know, just passing it 5 yards to the side as opposed to going for these 40-yard insane passes that he started to refine form and gain a little bit of ground again. Calvin Phillips needs to snap into gear and start thinking, doing the basics that he needs to do perfect, and then build upon that. And I don't know, in a month, that's a scary prospect to try and see if it happens when in that month, we're going to want him to not play as much as possible. It's a difficult thing, man.
Barry said, I think Phillips needs to get his time with us looking good. And the only way he can show he's worth it to Moyes and Southgate is to start getting somewhere in the slow step. Well, he's got all the motivation under the sun. He needs to get back in the England team for the Euros. And he needs a summer move. So he's got, like, he literally could not have more motivation in order to be better at West Ham. But make it happen. So to rely on Phillips is a worry. Peter says Phillips will never get to the level he was at Leeds United. And Bobby said he was delighted to see my younger and thinner brother get on the score sheet last night.
Love how Bobby didn't even include that bit. You've just naturally...
Well, it was the joke, weren't it? It was the joke. I was having a piss in... what's it called? Flares. I was having a piss in Flares.
Is it Newcastle?
Yeah, Newcastle. Post Sam Bender. Somebody had said I looked like Danny Dyer, so which was a bit weird because we didn't tell them. It was this woman. We never told them we supported West Ham. It's not like I've got a Cockney accent either. So for her to say that I looked like Danny Dyer was very weird. But anyway, so we were both like, no, I do not. And then obviously, Bez started pretending to be Danny Dyer. And he's like, all right, you slag. And then anyway, for whatever reason, we were in the bathroom and we were talking about it. And some bloke was like, what are you on about? We told him. And he said, don't look like Danny Dyer. He just looks at me and goes, you look like a fat Aaron Creswell. I mean, I don't mind it. He's a handsome bastard.
He is a handsome guy.
I'll take it, Charlie, right? If I look like a chubby version of a handsome guy, I'm okay with that. If anything, I've got something to aspire to. Lose a bit of weight and I'll look like that handsome bastard. That requires effort. And I'm a bit like Calvin Phillips. I'm not that bothered.
Yeah. By the way, just to back up my point about the Kudus thing, I'm just looking at the average positions on SofaScore.
Oh, did you see what he said to you? McKelvin said, I bet you didn't watch Kudus at Ajax.
I did, and I understand what you're saying, McKelvin, to be fair. I did. Some things I would say about that. One, Dutch League and Premier League, very, very different. Very, very different style of defending, very, very different style of defenders.
In Champions League as well.
At all of the in the same way we play and look very different in Europe to what we do in the Premier League. Different oppositions, you know. When we face Freiburg, for example, love a bit of man-to-man defending, get a guy running man-to-man or switching movements up and they start to struggle a little bit. Don't see that as much in the Premier League, for example. Big differences, right? What I would say is this. I'm looking on SofaScore. I'm looking at the average positions. I'm sorry. I hope you'll be able to see this.
We can.
Number 14. Look how deep he is. He's deeper than Cresswell average position-wise. If he's up front, he's all the way up here. And you miss that ability. One of his great traits is being able to pick up the ball and run with it. And especially when you're in a situation where you're deep and you need someone to pick up the ball and just run with it to get you out of those positions, you can trust him to do that reliably. If you put him up front, how's he going to get that ball? It's going to be a long ball forward. And at that point, you're just hoping he can kind of do up Michail Antonio things. And I feel like that's a waste. Yeah.
Anyway, shall we leave it there, my friend? Now you've
Yes.
defended your stance on Mohammed Kudus.
Yes. I could say something wilder that I don't need to actually. That's indefensible, but we'll stick with that one for now.
Like what?
I disagree with you strongly. I think James Ward-Prowse as a 10 is the only option. I feel like... Sorry. No, actually, here's something... What's something indefensible? Let's start on the left. Do I believe that? No, but apparently it doesn't matter. Certain people... Charlie Kerr, that was for you, my friend. Get in there, my son. I know you'll be watching that fuming. Anyway, yes, let's... I don't think we should play James Ward-Prowse at left wing. Yes, we'll be back, of course, in a couple of hours' time, 12 o'clock. We'll probably go live just before that, but check the channel out. Subscribe if you haven't already. It will come up in your feed because we'll be doing a live watch along for the draw itself. See which team we face next. Which team will face the wrath of West Ham
Who we may
next.
get in the semis should we make it through?
Yeah, of course, because they do it at the same time, don't they?
They do 2 draws, yeah.
Yeah, didn't even think about that. Didn't even begin to think about that.
So we'll know our route to the final. Our route to Dublin will be mapped out this afternoon.
UEFA are loving that. You've got it in all the tournaments. Road to insert location. They are absolutely adoring that at the moment, UEFA. Their marketing department running wild. I keep seeing it.
Well, they've been done road to Dublin, and then they've started panicking. I mean, they were originally panicking it might be a Liverpool Rangers final because they thought, wow, the amount of people that would go over to Ireland, Dublin won't cope. And I think they're probably going to have an element of that if it's West Ham Liverpool that make it to the final because it's just Ireland will be taking over. Liverpool got a big following in Ireland already. That's without people going over there. So
it's going to be.
Barry calls him lukewarm Prowse. I call him James Ward-Mouse. What one do you prefer, Charlie? Do you prefer lukewarm Prowse or do you prefer James Ward-Mouse? I know what you prefer. You prefer him on the left wing.
Listen, Charlie, my guy. Yeah, no, maybe he does. Who knows? We'll see. I like lukewarm Prowse. It's pretty decent, to be fair. I think it's because I've heard the mouse one before. I haven't seen that, so it's new. Recency bias is what I'm going to go with. But Barry, my G. But yeah, we'll be live at 12. So make sure to come back, check us out then on your lunch break or whatever, and we'll figure out who we're gonna demolish next. But before then, like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, because we do loads of stuff, and we shall speak to you soon. Cheers, everyone. Bye. See ya.